Hey everyone, this is Rabbitearsblog. Welcome to my top 10 series. So today's top 10 list I'll be doing today is my top 10 graphic novels of 2017. And before I get into this list, I would like to remind everyone that new videos will be posted up every Sunday. It could be Sunday morning, Sunday night, or Sunday evening, depending on when I can get the videos posted up. And if you happen to see any videos posted up during the week, that must mean there was a bit of movie or TV show news released during the week that I wanted to cover, so those will be considered special videos. And every Monday, I have the TV episode roundup series where I go over all the TV episodes I review for the week. And I go for worst pick of the week to best pick of the week. And I haven't been doing it lately because most of the shows I've been watching are on hiatus right now. So hopefully I'll get back to doing that series soon. So now let's get into this top 10 graphic novels of 2017 list. At first I was going to do this like very early on in January because I did read some graphic novels in 2017, but then I was thinking, well, I haven't read that many graphic novels in 2017 compared to 2016, so I was kind of like holding off on it, but now I decided to go ahead and do this list, especially since I did read a lot of great graphic novels in 2017. So I wanted to go over with this list with you guys. So now let's start with number 10. And that was Bloom County episode 9, A New Hope. So this is like the newest book in the Bloom County series. And I do remember reading Bloom County a bit when I was little. I was never a big fan of Bloom County when I was little, and I didn't read that many Bloom County comics when I was small. But after I read this graphic novel, I started to really enjoy this series. Like, I like the political humor that goes into this series, and I really like the characters themselves, like Opus and Bill the Cat. I think there was some of the best parts of this graphic novel. And I just love the humor overall, how the characters deal with the technology of the current century, such as dealing with social media like Twitter and Facebook, and also dealing with sending embarrassing photos of people through cell phones. And I really like how this graphic novel tackles all that and presents it in a humorous way. So overall, I gave Bloom County episode 9, A New Hope, 5 stars, and that was number 10. Moving on to number 9, and that's Garfield Brings Home. Oh, well, but when I said Bloom County, I said episode 9. It's actually episode 11. Sorry, I can't read Roman numerals that well. But anyway, moving on to number 9 anyway. And that's Garfield Brings Home the Bacon. So, of course, every year I read a Garfield comic book because I love Garfield. I always have to read a Garfield comic book every year, and this was no exception. I really enjoy Garfield Brings Home the Bacon because I really like the humor in that Jim Davis brings to these characters, and I like the fact that the humor stays consistent within the Garfield graphic novels, so it never feels like I never feel bored with the Garfield comics whenever I read them. And I like how they feature Liz in this comic book series, as opposed to the earlier graphic novels, was just about John, Odie, and Garfield. And I like Liz's dynamics with both Garfield and John, so that was something I really enjoyed about this volume. So overall, I gave Garfield Brings Home the Bacon 5 stars, and that was number 9. Moving on to number 8, and that's Garfield Gets in a Pickle. This is basically the same thing as Garfield Brings Home the Bacon, so I won't say too much about this graphic novel, but I do like the humor and how consistent it is after all these years, and I like the relationship between John, Odie, Garfield, and Liz, so I still continue to enjoy the series. And overall, I gave Garfield Gets in a Pickle 5 stars, and that was number 8. So moving on to number 7, and that's Leo Making Friends. In 2016, I read Leo, a Leo comic book, and I really enjoyed the dark humor that goes into the comic book. I like the fact that this volume actually focuses more on Leo's father, and we get to see more about how Leo's father deals with Leo's dark sense of humor and also his monstrous pets. And I like the dark humor that goes in this graphic novel series, such as Leo's pets eating up bullies whenever they annoy Leo. So that was something I really enjoyed about this graphic novel series. And if you love anything done by Tim Burton, it does have that Tim Burton vibe. The artwork looks a little cuter in this one, but yeah, it does have the same dark humor as what you would expect in any Tim Burton film. So Leo Making Friends, I gave that 5 stars, and that was number 7. So now moving on to number 6, which is Heathen Volume 1. So this graphic novel series was pretty new to me. Like I just recently read it last year, and it was something that was just created last year. And what happens in this book is that it's about a young Viking woman named Adis, who performs a forbidden act. She actually kisses another woman, and that's forbidden in her village. And she decides to go on this journey to fight Odin and change the rules that's going on in the land. And she meets up with this Viking goddess named Brunhilde, something like that. Sorry if I butchered the name, but it turns out she was cursed by Odin, and Idas wants to help out the Viking goddess any way she can. And the reason why Heathen is on my list is because it's like one of the first LGBT comics I've read. What not exactly the first comic I read that features an LGBT character. Like I read Noelle Stevenson's Nimona, and I read the Jughead's reboot series. But I think this is like the first graphic novel I read where the LGBT character is actually the main protagonist, and I really like that. I like the fact that I get to explore more with more LGBT characters, and I hope to read more with this graphic novel. And I like the fact that this graphic novel delves into Norse mythology. As much as I love fairy tales, I also love Norse mythology or any kind of mythology, and I'm glad that this graphic novel was able to go into that. And I think it does it so well. Like the story is so beautifully written. I also like the artwork done in here. The artwork is so well done, and I'm definitely looking forward to checking out volume 2 this series whenever it comes out. So overall, I gave Heathen volume 1 5 stars, and that was number 6. Moving on to number 5, and that's Foul Language, The Struggle's Real. So what happens in this graphic novel is that it's about a male fowl who's like trying to deal with his kids, and he's giving all these hints to any parent, how to deal with kids, and how sometimes he gets frustrated with his kids for interfering with his private time and stuff like that, and how he finds it hard to talk with other adults because he's been with his kids all this time. But he also shows that he still loves his kids anyway, even though they do drive him crazy sometimes. And I love this graphic novel because it's like a parody of the parent how what parents have to go through when they're dealing with children. And it reminds me a bit of Tales from the Crib, except without the creepy sexual drawings that's in there. But yeah, I like how this graphic novel delves into what parents go through when they're dealing with kids, and how they still love their kids anyway, despite all the trouble they have to deal with when dealing with their kids. And I think this graphic novel presents it in such a funny way that I definitely recommend you check out this graphic novel whenever you get the chance to. And I gave Foul Language, The Struggle's Real 5 stars, and that was number 5. So moving on to number 4, and that's The Little Red Wolf. So the Little Red Wolf is like a reversal role of the Little Red Riding Hood story. And what happens in the story is that it's about a wolf named Little Red Wolf who wears a red cape, just like a Little Red Riding Hood. And he ends up going to his grandmother's house to deliver her a rabbit, and he ends up eating the rabbit along the way while he was to his grandmother's house. And then he starts crying because he said, "Oh, I don't have a rabbit for my grandmother." And so he meets up with this little girl who's like tells him, "Oh, well, I know where you can find all the rabbits you want." And he ends up following the girl to her house, and I'll leave it up to you guys to see what happens next. But I really enjoy the story because, like I said, I like the perspective flip that happens in the story. I like the fact that the wolf is the focus of the story, and that the wolf is presented as being the good guy, and then you have the huntsmen and those who are presented as the bad guys. And I just like this reversal role of the wolf and the Little Red Riding Hood as a whole. And I really love the artwork. Like I thought the artwork was very beautiful, and it was also creepy at the same time. But it really conveys like how well this story is. Like it conveys the mysteriousness of the story, and just the perspective flipped on the story. So I really enjoyed the story. And if you love books that deal with fractured fairy tales or deals with fairy tales to have like a perspective flip, I definitely recommend you check out The Little Red Wolf. And I gave this book graphic novel 5 stars, and that was number 4. Moving on to number 3, and that was Monstrous Volume 1. I actually read the first 2 issues of Monstrous way back in 2016, I believe, and I really enjoyed that series. So this I pretty much went to the library and got the complete volume of Monstrous, and I've been really enjoying it. Like I really enjoy Maka's storyline as she ends up getting demonic powers, and she has to figure out how to escape from the warlord while also dealing with her demonic powers at the same time. And I think this story does a very good job at portraying Maka's character and her relationship with the little fox girl at the same time. And then we see this magical world that Maka lives in. Like we see so many animal characters become like human-like characters, and I really enjoy that aspect of the series. And then I love the artwork. The artwork is like so beautiful. It's so gorgeous, and it makes me really get immersed into this world. So I really enjoy Monstrous Volume 1, and I gave that 5 stars, and that was number 3. So moving on to number 2, and that's Afterlife with Archie, Escape from Riverdale, Volume 1. I've heard a lot about this series, and I wanted to try this out for a while. So, of course, Afterlife with Archie is about Jughead being affected by Hot Dog, because at the beginning of the book, Hot Dog ends up getting run over by a car, and Jughead like goes to Sabrina, the teenage witch, and asks her, can you bring back Hot Dog for me? And Sabrina's like, oh no, I shouldn't mess with that. And Jughead's like, oh please. And then Sabrina's like, oh okay, I'll figure out a way to bring back Hot Dog back to life. And she ends up bringing Hot Dog back to life, but then it turns out that she accidentally turned Hot Dog into a zombie, and Hot Dog ends up biting Jughead, and Jughead becomes a zombie himself, and he ends up affecting everybody in Riverdale. And so Archie and the gang had to escape to Lodge Manor to escape the zombie plague that's going on around Riverdale. And that's pretty much what the story is about. What I love so much about this graphic novel is that I like the fact that it's more serious in tone than what we normally see from the Archie comics. And I think this takes place before the Archie reboot, so this is like still within the original Archie universe before the reboot happened. I like the fact again that this graphic novel has a more serious tone, so we get to see Archie and the gang being placed in a more serious situation than they usually are in the original comics. And we actually see some blood and gore in this comic, which is really surprising for an Archie comic. And I just love the fact that this story focuses on the zombie outbreak, because it's something really original for the Archie comics in general. And I think this graphic novel did a fantastic job at portraying this zombie outbreak in the Archie universe. So I definitely would read this graphic novel during Halloween, and I gave this graphic novel 5 stars, and that was number 2. Now moving on to number 1, and that's All-Star Superman Volume 1. So, what happens in this volume is that Superman ends up contracting some kind of virus, and the doctors tell him that he doesn't have much time to live. So Superman's like, I'm gonna make the best of my situation. I'm gonna do all the things I want to do. I'm gonna give Lois Lane some powers. I'm gonna meet up with Lex Luthor. He does a lot of things in this comic book, and what I love so much about this graphic novel is that it shows how Superman's willing to do whatever he can to wrap up some loose ends before he bites the dust. I like the scenes where he gives Lois Lane some powers and gives her a day to explore what's like to be Superman and actually tell her his true identity. I really like that scene. I also like the moments he has with Lex Luthor, and about the fact that Lex Luthor might be planning something big, which I hope we get to see in Volume 2. But overall, I really enjoy this graphic novel because I've been hearing a lot of good things about All-Star Superman. Everybody's been telling me, you gotta read All-Star Superman. You gotta read All-Star Superman. And I was like, okay, I'll check out All-Star Superman, see what this is all about. So when I finally checked out this graphic novel, it was amazing. I just love how they portray Superman's character in this volume. I love the relationship between him and Lois Lane, and the building suspension that goes on in this graphic novel. The only problem I have with this graphic novel is that so much happens in this graphic novel. I can't really tell you everything that happens because so much goes on in this graphic novel. But they're very interesting, to say the least. And I've really enjoyed this graphic novel. And I gave All-Star Superman Volume 1 5.5 stars. And that was my number 1 pick for the year. So that's my top 10 graphic novels of 2017. And tell me in the comments below, what are some graphic novels you read in 2017? Please feel free to comment below, and don't forget to follow me on Twitter so I can keep you updated on any new videos I post up. And also, like my Facebook page, Rabbitearsblog's Best Comments, and also support my Patreon page so I can continue to push out great content for this channel. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. This is Rabbitearsblog, and I'll see you later.